This is all your fault,
First
Norman,
time
you
I-
son of a... I don't feel like
Otto,
a failure.
you're not a
You're
failure.
a failure, Otto! And you always will be!
What happens when a brilliant mind loses its way? When a mentor becomes a villain, not out of hate, but out of heartbreak. In Insomniac's Spider-Man video game, Otto Octavius, better known as the iconic Marvel villain Dr. Octopus, is more than just your average generic boss fight. He is a tragedy, one that I think that we can all relate to. In today's video, I got the amazing opportunity to sit down with actor William Salyers, who portrayed Otto Octavius, aka Dr. Octopus, in the video game and brought to life one of the best depictions of a tragic villain in all of Marvel history. For those not familiar with the story, here's a basic rundown of the plot and the tragic story of Otto Octavius from this iconic video game. Beware, there will be major spoilers ahead. Before we continue, I would like to acknowledge that today's video was made possible by SACAnime 2025. My sincerest gratitude to the event organizers for helping coordinate this interview and supporting creators like myself who are passionate about storytelling, mental health, and pop culture. Unlike most superhero origin stories, Insomniac's Spider-Man game follows Peter Parker 8 years into his seasoned role as Spider-Man, where he attempts to balance his responsibilities as both a hero to New York City and your everyday man just navigating through the daily challenges of life. In the game, Peter works as a lab assistant alongside his mentor Otto Octavius, who at this point of the story hadn't become the iconic villain Dr. Octopus yet, and instead was a brilliant scientist working on developing advanced prosthetic technology with a pure motive to make the world a better place. Before working alongside Peter, Otto used to be close friends and business partners with Norman Osborn, who, for those who are familiar with Marvel lore, eventually becomes the iconic Marvel villain, the Green Goblin. Their partnership remained strong for quite some time before a failed clinical trial on an unethical project called GR27, which was also known as the Devil's Breath, caused not only their partnership, but also their friendship to crumble. Norman would eventually find immense success on his own with not only his company Oscorp, but also as the mayor of New York City, while Otto's former success slowly vanishes, causing not only a rift, but great resentment and hatred over Norman. Despite Otto's attempts to find his own success, he slowly loses not only his business, but also his basic mobility as he struggles with a neurological condition that's slowly deteriorating his health due to too many past failed experiments. Eventually, as Otto is forced to grapple with too many losses and circumstances beyond his control, Otto eventually goes down the wrong path and becomes Dr. Octopus, unleashing the Devil's Breath onto all of New York City in an effort to destroy Norman's reputation, even if it meant causing the deaths of innocent people. What makes this hit all even harder is that this isn't just another generic Marvel bad guy for Spider-Man to stop. It's to stop someone he works so closely with and admired. Otto wasn't just a mentor, but he was a friend. So I kind of want to start off with a general question. When people play Marvel characters, typically people base off their own versions of whether it's Marvel superheroes or Marvel villains, drawing comparisons. I mean, you obviously played an iconic Spider-Man villain in Dr. Octopus. Did you take any inspiration or anything that Alfred Molina did in the original 2004 Spider-Man 2 film?
Well, it was obvious to me that the writing was really good, and so I tried to stay away from any influences. I'd seen Fred do Otto and thought he was amazing. But in terms of, I actually thought about maybe going back and looking at the comics and that kind of thing. And I thought, no, I want to treat this like any other role and get everything I need from the script itself. And so I tried to forget that he was the Otto Octavius and he's just this guy that I have to get to know to play.
So obviously Otto's relationship with Peter in the game is one that I think we can agree is of mutual respect and admiration. How did you navigate their emotional connection, especially when Otto becomes aware of Peter's identity as Spider-Man later in the game?
I think, Otto knows he's brilliant. And I think that's sort of his Achilles heel, is he maybe tends to both overestimate himself and underestimate others. And so I don't think, in my opinion, he wasn't terribly threatened by Spider-Man initially because, he thought it was just another inferior mind that he could overcome. And especially, of course, because once he came to realize it was Peter, he knows Peter so well from their time working together. I'm sure Otto felt like he could push Peter's buttons and make sure that, he wasn't a real obstacle for him.
Oh, Doc, I'm so sorry, but I've got to take the afternoon off. It's an emergency.
Again? Peter, is something bigger going on? Perhaps at home? You know you can talk to me about it.
Oh, I'm fine, but I'm sorry to run out on you again.
Not at all. Work will be waiting when you get back.
Thanks, Doc.
And, one of the great lessons for Otto in that game, I think, is that he comes to realize how much he underestimated Peter.
Absolutely. Something that's also, I would say, tragic with Otto's character, that there's a lot of themes around mental health and moral ambiguity. Yeah. So as far as Otto, Otto's deteriorating mental health state is influenced by, the mechanical arms and the neural interface technology of those arms. But it also seems tied, in a sense, into his deep-seated resentment against Norman Osborn, especially when it's addressed in the game that Norman has taken a lot of credit of Otto's ideas. What do you think his story says about the intersection between technology and mental health?
Oh, that's great. Well, I think technology can often exacerbate any challenges that we may already have, whether that's communicating with other people or isolating ourselves.
Otto's rage is driving him. The neural interface is exacerbating it, but his hate is genuine. He'll destroy the whole city to hurt Norman.
I sometimes think that if the virtual world were further along, I'd probably spend too much time in it, you know what I mean? Certainly the neural interface was the instigator, if you will, but I tend to think a lot of the brain as being an electrochemical thing anyway. And so the idea to me that there were these underlying feelings of insecurity and jealousy, and then it just took a little bit of tweaking in brain chemistry to bring those out and make them a problem. One of the great enduring things about the Spider-Man story is that we're all Spider-Man and we're all Doc Ock. So the fact that Doc represents, in my opinion, our failure to always achieve the nobility we aspire to, and Peter's kind of the other side of that coin. He faces the same thing, being brought low or challenged by niggling everyday, bills and problems with his girlfriend and all of that, while he's aspiring to be something greater. And so I kind of feel like both characters represent sort of the whole totality of human experience.
Hey, are you enjoying this video so far? If so, and you would like to see more content just like this in the future, then feel free to give this video a like, drop a comment, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on future videos. Alright, let's get back to the interview. So I want to go back a little bit into that neural interface that we've talked about with Doc Ock. It seems that the neural interface definitely amplifies Otto's worst traits, and especially raises questions about free will and identity. How do you think that this impacts an audience's understanding of Otto as a villain, or not even a villain, but maybe perhaps a victim?
I think you're absolutely right. I think he is a victim. So personally, I struggle with how much I believe in the concept of free will as a philosophical concept. So I tend to think that we're often, victims may be too hard a word, but I feel like we're often prone to or at the whims of things that are going on with us chemically or physically or stress. And I think that can lead a deeply decent person to exhibit less than decent behavior. One of the things I really love about the script is that I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and says, how can I be a bad guy? We're all the heroes of our own stories. Well, there's that great line about having a responsibility to affect the lives of ordinary men, whether they want us to or not.
That's because men like us have a duty, a responsibility, to use our talents in the service of others. Even if they don't appreciate it, we have to do what's best for those beneath us, whether they understand it or not.
No, you're wrong! You are everything I wanted to be! You just threw it away!
Which is a very godlike view of the world. So I think that he honestly believed that everything he was doing was for the best. And I don't know if in the course of the game he ever really came to grips with the kind of damage that he had done.
And I'm really glad that you brought up that line, because I have that line right here, though. And when I read this quote, this seems like a darker, more inverse take on the iconic "with great power comes with great responsibility" line. So when you first read that, kind of what was kind of going through your mind? Because this line doesn't really suggest that, as you say, Otto thinks of himself as a bad guy.
Right.
It's just balancing this moral oh my gosh, I can't even talk right now. Yeah, with his own personal wants and desires.
Yeah, it's a very keen observation that there's kind of a mirror image or a negative of Peter's own beliefs in that situation, and that to me is the ultimate difference between these two men. Is Peter doesn't presume that he's not paternalistic. He's not patriarchal. He's not saying, well, whatever, little person, I know what's best. Instead, he's looking at it from a standpoint of the greater good, from an empathetic standpoint. And I think that's the key difference between the two men. Is Otto has that fatal flaw of arrogance, that he thinks he knows what's best for everybody.
Please, just talk to me. I can help you.
So you can treat me like all the rest, containing me, suffocating me? No, I will let my genius shine on its own. I saw you, Peter, taking notes, stealing ideas, a rat in my own lab. To think I called you a friend.
I'll say for myself, speaking for myself, that I personally see Otto as a very tragic figure. And I had this experience, and I'm sure other people have as well, that when that final fight at the Osborn Tower came about, I was still reluctant to call Otto Octavius Dr. Octopus, because, you know, despite the fact that, you know, in the comics we know that he becomes a bad guy, I didn't want him to become a bad guy because I understood him. So, what do you hope that new players that are playing this game for the first time can take away from this story, especially when, you know, especially themes around forgiveness, reconciliation, redemption, or in Otto's case, the consequences of unaddressed trauma?
That's a great question. I think that there's something, as there often is in stories about good and evil, if you will, there's something there to be learned about the need to take responsibility for your actions, even if you were acting under a mistaken idea of what was best. You know, the fact that Otto is brought low and loses the arms at the end of the story doesn't take away from what he did, you know, most notably to like Aunt May, you know. So, yeah, I think the moral themes there involve him having to take responsibility for what he's done. And Peter, often it's hard for us to redefine someone we love, even if we have to do it for our own health. It's sometimes difficult to say, well, this person isn't what I thought they were, or this person is more complicated than I thought they were. And it takes courage to be able to do that and to redefine a relationship.
Yeah. And this kind of brings me into this, you know, that final scene between Otto and Peter at the end. There's this great, like, short monologue that Otto has that Peter had said he'll get him help. But he'll say that, no, if they take me away, they'll take my arms. I'll be trapped in this useless body. Please, that wasn't me. You said that you never abandoned me. You promised me. And you can rest easy knowing that your secret is safe with me. Now, when I'm thinking about that, that almost seems that Otto is attempting to rationalize with Peter. How did you feel when, you know, you were playing that scene out with Yuri?
Well, when I read that scene, I remember thinking that there was a combination of things that were happening, including it was very from a dramaturgical standpoint, from a writing standpoint, it was obvious to me, A, that Otto was manipulating Peter, and B, when he says the line, "and your secret's safe with me," he's overplayed his hand. He has moved from playing to Peter's guilt to threatening Peter. And at that point, I think, you know, he has underestimated who Peter is, and that's what he really loses, because I think Yuri was playing, and I was too, that up until that point, there was still a chance that Peter might have said, "Okay, I'm gonna get you away from here before the cops come, and we'll work on making you healthy again." But then Otto tipped his hand into you know, too much of a bad guy.
You know, Hearing all this really reminds me of a sermon that a friend of mine gave at my home church just a few months ago that was actually all about insecurity, obsession, and fear. All the things that reminded me of Otto's story from this game. There's a story from the Bible. Whether you're religious or not, I think it perfectly captures Otto's emotional journey to a T. It's found in 1 Samuel 18 from the Old Testament. Now just bear with me here. For those of you who aren't familiar with this story, 1 Samuel 18 tells the story about a man named Saul. You can think of this as basically our version of Otto Octavius from the game. During the story, he hires this young warrior named David. David is loyal, brave, and successful in battle. And you can think of David as our Peter Parker. David wins many battles, and the people praise him for his victories, but this causes Saul to be consumed with jealousy. Now let's see here. Being praised for victories that Saul doesn't think David deserves to have. I don't know about you, but doesn't that kind of sound like Otto and Norman's initial friendship and fallout? Now in this story, David never tried to take anything from him, but Saul still spirals out of control, constantly obsessing over David, seeing him as a threat, and eventually even tries to kill him. He goes mad, not because of anything David necessarily did, but merely because he just couldn't handle the fact of seeing someone else being successful that wasn't himself. That's essentially what happened with Otto in this game. While his mentorship with Peter was initially one with pure motives and intentions to make the world a better place, Otto eventually spirals because things just didn't go his way, and not only trying to kill Peter and Norman, but also putting his entire city into utter chaos. A city that he once committed to make better. Peter was praised by the people for being Spider-Man, and Norman got praised for his own accomplishments, and Otto just couldn't take it. Too worried that he would be perceived as a failure. As far as Otto's own actions, though, there's nothing to confirm that he knew that his actions in the first game caused Aunt May's death. How do you think he would react if he knew what his actions ultimately caused, and especially how it affected Peter?
Well, I think we have an almost endless capacity as humans to justify our actions. And so, ironically, the more horrific those actions are, the more apt we are to find some reason to make it okay. So it's a great question. I think Otto in his right mind, Otto before the neural interface, would have been horrified at the thought of I mean, we know that he was really disturbed by what happened to Martin Lee when they were experimenting on him. So I think it would have been really, really troublesome. He's been so changed that I think he'd be more apt to justify it now, particularly after Peter put him in the raft.
So there is a very subtle line in the end of the second game where Norman asks Otto that you know who the Spider-Men are.
Yes.
Why do you think he didn't tell Norman who their identity was, despite everything that happened in the first game?
Well, there's a really good reason, which is that I'm not sure, based on the events of the first game, that he did know who both were. I mean, clearly he knows Peter, but I can't think of anything in the script of the original where I indicated I knew who Miles Morales was. As I recall, when we were shooting that scene, they did a rewrite. Originally, there was dialogue that acknowledged, I said something along the lines, that it confirmed that I knew who they both were. And we changed that to make it more ambiguous because we weren't sure that I would know who both were.
Obviously, Otto's experiences in this game has provided a lot of insight on mental health challenges. For those who feel trapped by their circumstances, because I think we can all agree that, especially in a pre-COVID age, a lot of people have found frustration or sadness based off of circumstances out of control. Just kind of addressing to that camera there, what would you like to say to those people and what you hope that they'll take away from Otto's character and as far as how they may cope with their own mental health challenges?
You don't have to be a Superman, and Otto is in a situation because he didn't trust people enough to try to get help. And I think that the lesson for that is there's no shame in seeking help. I've done it. Most of the people I know have done it, and that's the way to go.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on our success. And thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thanks, Sam.